First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting them plan a birth in my tub? I, 28 male, own my own place and suffer extreme pain in my back and my right leg. I bought and had installed essentially jacuzzi in my master bedroom as a tool to help relax and use it regularly. My brother and his wife were pregnant and asked if they could use it because they wanted to do a water birth. No idea if that's what it's called, but they have no bathtub in their place and asked to use my jacuzzi, saying they'll clean it out. To be honest, I know it's the miracle of life, but it makes me so uncomfortable to think of birth in my relaxation tub. I told them absolutely not, and they were furious, saying that it's selfish to deny her this. She went into labor yesterday, and they called to ask if they could come over and use it, and I told them again, no, and turned my ringer off. She gave birth at the hospital and demanded I need to pay half the bill that she'll get, but I just told them to screw off. They're now both calling me the a-hole, and so are our parents who live over the other end of the country. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top judgment. Did you make half the baby? No? Then there's no reason for you to pay half the bill. Some people. Not the a-hole. Nobody's entitled to your things, not even when pregnant or giving birth. I wish I could upvote this more than once. And the jets are impossible to clean. I have given birth. It's messy. And good for you for not allowing them to use your tub with jets. Ew. It really kills the relaxation vibe when blood, feces, amniotic fluid, and assorted after-birth particles congeal in your pipes. Not the a-hole. The miracle of life is a miracle, but it's also not at all sanitary. I can't even imagine trying to get all of the pipes clean after something like that. It sounds like you very clearly told them no, and they didn't listen and didn't make other plans. That's on them, not you. You were not responsible for any bills. How entitled. I can't even imagine trying to get all of the pipes clean after something like that. I had the same thought. Even with just water, if you don't blow the air tubes out, it's mold city. Not the a-hole. You do not want a birth going on in your jacuzzi tub. I had a home water birth, and trust me, they get messy. A jacuzzi tub isn't even suitable for a birth. They're too hot for one, and not deep enough for another. Tell them to buy or rent a birthing pool like the rest of us. Exactly. A jacuzzi is the wrong sort of tub. Could have set sister-in-law and the baby up for a nasty infection. What is fine if you have intact skin is not when everything is open up in a birthing situation. Sister-in-law is straight up wrong. And this doesn't even get into OP not wanting to contaminate her tub with that much blood and bodily fluids. Not the a-hole, and wow. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not getting over my sister-in-law calling child services? There's a lot of details I could go into, but I'll try to keep it brief. I, 34 female, cut my sister-in-law, 34 female, out of my life and my kid's life after she called Child Protective Services on me and my husband, 35 male. She made certain accusations against my husband and I, and told them that my house was gross. None of it was true, and DCFS went on their merry way after briefly investigating us. She admitted calling. She didn't even apologize, and said she'd made the right call. I told her she should have at least asked us why our baby was so small, for example, but she said we would have just lied to her because we had previously lied about my oldest child being conceived before we were married. I told her I never wanted to talk to her again, and that she was never going to see my kids again. My husband's family all told her she made a bad call to not at least ask us, or even them if she thought we'd lie about the things she claims she noticed. Sister-in-law doubled down, and the whole family wrote it off as her just needing to cause a drama, unfortunately at our expense. I haven't talked to her since. She asked me to coffee a few times over the years, and I said no. My husband mostly stayed no contact with her as well, but did get lunch with her once, during which she defended herself and told him how dramatic and ridiculous I was being. Husband, kids, and I moved across the country, and it hasn't really come up in like 6 years. Being accused of such things by a family member gave me some lasting anxiety, and I panic if someone comes over and the house is messy or the kids have a cut or bruise. But I don't, like, sit and stew about how awful my sister-in-law is or anything. It's been several years now. The baby in the store is now 10, and my mother-in-law just moved in with us. She video chats with my sister-in-law, and I requested that she keep the video chats to her own bedroom, and not carry her phone around the house, give sister-in-law our address, or pull my children into the calls to say hello. My husband doesn't feel like this is necessary, but understands the boundary I've drawn here and backs me up. Mother-in-law keeps pulling my kids in to say hello to their cousin, my sister-in-law's child, despite being asked not to. Mother-in-law says I'm being ridiculous, holding on to this grudge for so long, and that I really need to let it go and let my sister-in-law back into my husband's life. I've never told my husband he can't talk to his own sister. I will not talk to her, and I don't want her near the kids, but he can do whatever he wants. She doesn't ask to video chat with him, so I don't know why my mother-in-law tried to frame it that way. I think it's possible I'm the a-hole for not breaking my zero contact resolution, just because it's been so long. But she hasn't changed personality-wise at all, and I don't think it's unlikely she'd pull that stuff again, just for the drama factor. Mother-in-law insists she's changed, and I need to give her another chance. Am I the a-hole for not getting over it? Edit. Because this has come up a lot. I do not mind if my children get to know their cousin. The problem is that the video chat is never just the kids. My sister-in-law is always there, facilitating the interaction because her kid is 5, and just as likely to hang up or drop the phone in the toilet as she is likely to chat. When the kiddo gets bored after a minute or two, she hands the phone to my sister-in-law, who then chats with my kids. That's the part I'm not okay with. They can talk to their cousin, but my sister-in-law ruins it every time, and therefore they can't really talk to their cousin. If I didn't feel like video chatting with her cousin put our family in legitimate danger, I would not object. I have no desire to punish a 5-year-old because her mother is Satan's bride. Not the a-hole. Ask mother-in-law if she would like the zero contact expanded to include her as well. She can't be allowed to keep pushing without consequences. I'm honestly so confused here though. Why did a sister call CPS? Is it a thing to call CPS when the child is small? What was the actual truth about the baby? Was it some health issues? I feel like there are so many gaps in the story. It sounds so vague. It's like Opie talked about everything around the plot, except the plot itself. I'm not trying to be nosy here, but could someone explain it to me? Am I missing out on something? Not an a-hole. The way I see it is mother-in-law has 2 options. 1, respect your boundaries. 2, move out. Mother-in-law can move in with sister-in-law, not the a-hole. She should have at least asked us why our baby was so small. What? Why should CPS get involved when a child is small? Anyway, you have a reasonable line since what sister-in-law pulled could have gotten your family in a lot of trouble. She clearly likes to cause drama, and you and your husband made a joint decision to cut her out. It doesn't really matter what your mother-in-law thinks of your boundary, but my husband doesn't feel like this is necessary. Have a talk with your husband about this, why he wants to move the line he and you set together. After clearing things with him, present a united front to your mother-in-law and tell her of your decision and ask her to respect it. If she doesn't and keeps violating your boundaries, then kick her out. She accused us of starving the baby, among other horrible accusations. The baby was 4 months old and really was worrying small. We were at the pediatrician 2 to 3 times a week. We were syringe feeding her, having breast milk shipped to us from another state. It was a nightmare, and having DCFS up our butts when I was trying to keep my baby from being hospitalized because she refused to take a bottle was not what I needed. But yes, everyone was concerned about the baby, and a call to DCFS would have been legit if we weren't doing anything about her smallness. Had she asked us about the welfare of the baby, we could have explained, but she reported us instead. My husband told me that he doesn't think it's necessary to set this boundary with his mother's video chats. He always respected my request that his sister not be allowed around the kids, but I don't think he ever liked it. He wants his sister not to be a jerk, but also recognizes the reality. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for evicting my late son's girlfriend from my house? My late son, 43 male, and I were estranged for a very long time, probably around the time he was 25, greatly in part because of his on-again, off-again drinking problems. Around 2 years ago, we reconnected. Alcoholism had ravaged his life and his body, and he had been out of work for close to 8 years. His girlfriend, 45 female, and him had 3 daughters, 10, 8, 3, that he never told me about. But the store she was a manager at closed, so she was now out of work too. They were going to get married, but he couldn't afford a ring. They were soon evicted from their apartment and had no place to go. I have a house that I bought in cash 5 years prior, so I let them move into it around a year ago. They offered to pay rent, but after the first 2 months, they said they were swamped with medical bills for my son and still paying their eldest daughter's hospital bills for childhood leukemia. Around that time, my son confessed that he had advanced liver cirrhosis. I tried to get his girlfriend to get him to stop drinking. She would yell at me and sit down and cry when my son was in the middle of vomiting black bile with his entire body so yellow. She'd ramble on about how she spent 20 years with him and cannot stop hoping that he'll pull through and they'd get married and be a happy family. I had to stop visiting after that, mostly because soon after their eldest hysterically called me and said her dad didn't recognize her anymore, and I realized his mind had gone. My son finally died of cirrhosis 2 months ago. His girlfriend started wailing in the hospital and saying a lot of mean things to me and about my son in general, saying she wasted her youth with him and who was going to love her now. The house was falling into disarray as his girlfriend did nothing but cook for her kids and stare aimlessly at job postings. She's cold to me every time I come in, and the kids would be as well. While I feel for her, I always thought my son moving in was a temporary situation, and that's what he agreed to as well. I was thinking of putting the house up for sale for a while now, and in the meantime, my girlfriend's twin brother needed a place to stay when he starts his MBA in the fall. He was a property manager in college, so we agreed to get in an optimal condition for buyers. When I had my lawyer send notice to her that I needed her to move out, she called and said that she could not believe I was being so cruel to a single mom. It's been a month, and when I gave her the chance to move again, she said to have some heart and hung up even though she can't pay rent. I had my lawyers file an eviction complaint and had her served a couple days ago. She called me screeching about how I was a bastard for trying to make room for my girlfriend's twin and sobbed, saying where would she go with 2 evictions on her record? Am I the a-hole? She's 45 years old and not my responsibility. Now for the top comments. This is a rough situation. And first, I am sorry for your loss. His girlfriend started wailing in the hospital and saying a lot of mean things to me and about my son in general, saying she wasted her youth with him and who was going to love her now. She chose to stay with your son for 20 years knowing he was an alcoholic. She knowingly put herself into this situation by not seeking help or leaving during that time. I think this really sucks, but mostly for your granddaughters. It doesn't seem like you even acknowledge them as part of your family, referring to them as her kids. They are your son's kids too. I'm going to go with everyone sucks here. It's horrible your son died and left your grandkids without a father. It sucks that his girlfriend is struggling to care for them and is being rude and obnoxious instead of being proactive. And it sucks that you, after writing your son off years ago, are not able to realize you have an opportunity to help your family still, because you don't acknowledge them because of issues their father had. Everyone sucks here seems like the most reasonable answer here. It sounds like the son and girlfriend were dodging responsibility, covering up and making excuses for a long time. Meanwhile, letting their kids grow up in a household with a severe alcoholic. I've seen what addicts can do to children, and I also know that you can't force an addict into treatment until they want to go, as one other commenter said. Still, I fault OP for being so callous and detached after his son passed, and for leaving the kids in such a situation. I mean, his oldest granddaughter called freaking out that her father couldn't even recognize her, and OP's response was to quit visiting. He was probably the most stable person in those kids' lives, and he just noped out when the situation got too bad. You're not just evicting his girlfriend, though. You're evicting his 3 children, your grandchildren. If you're fine making your grandkids homeless, I guess that's your choice, but it's a pretty damn harsh one. I had to stop visiting after that, mostly because soon after their eldest hysterically called me and said her dad didn't recognize her anymore, and I realized his mind had gone. Doesn't this mean you should have visited more to support your grandchildren? Your oldest grandkid has leukemia. How is she going to stay in treatment if she's homeless? You can legally do whatever you want, but I think you're the a-hole. 2 months? The ink isn't even dry on his death certificate, and you're kicking out his wife and children. I hope you don't like those kids, because I can guarantee that if you do this, they might never talk to you again. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that his own behavior is why our son doesn't show him physical affection, and I won't force him to? My husband and I have a 6-year-old son, Sam. Sam is super affectionate to me because I am super affectionate to him. For practically his whole life, we've had cuddle time every night. I tuck him in and give him hugs and kisses. I put him on the bus in the morning and kiss him goodbye. And when he doesn't feel good, I let him curl up with me on the couch and hold my hand. So it's not uncommon for him to randomly tell me he loves me, or come plant a kiss on my forehead while I'm just sitting down. This is just how we've always been with each other. By contrast, my husband isn't a very touchy-feely person, and therefore, our son doesn't show him the same affection. Don't get me wrong, my husband is a great father and Sam loves him. But he shows his love with tickles and wrestling, and Sam climbs all over him like a human jungle gym. That's their kind of love. Today, Sam wasn't feeling well, so I kept him home from school and we cuddled. When my husband came home, he kept trying to cuddle with Sam as well, but he only wanted me. This made my husband feel bad, understandably, and said that it looks like Sam loves me more than him. I told him that's not true at all, but that kids simulate the behavior that they experience. And since husband isn't affectionate most of the time, there are definitely some times where he is. Sam isn't affectionate back because he doesn't associate that behavior with his father. I told him that Sam shows him love when they goof off with each other. My husband said that I'm making him sound like he's a bad father, and that I should force Sam to give him hugs and kisses. But I refused, because I think Sam has the right to choose who he is physically affectionate with. He apparently vented to his mom and sister, who have both taken his side. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I suspect, based on your post, that I'm old enough to be that man's mother. So pass this on to him from me if you think it will help. Your son was not put on this earth to make you look good. You were put on this earth to raise him and care for him. If you screw up doing that, you own it. It's not a little boy's job to duct tape his daddy's best dad ever poster. Your son was not put on this earth to make you feel good. Taking care of your feelings is not his job. You are grown up. You don't like that you get what you give? Suck it up. You screwed up. The next time your son looks like he just needs company, offer him company. Just hanging out, doing stuff together. Accept it if he says no. Don't try to put your hurt feelings on him. If he falls down and skins his knee while he's with you, ask him if he wants a hug. Again, accept no. Do little, kind things for him like that, and he may grow to understand that dad also can be a source of mutual affection. Or you may have already set the pattern of your interactions for the rest of your lives. And if that is how it is, you live with it. And stop whining to your mommy about it. Good grief. Signed, somebody who knows firsthand what happens when grown adults try to make their little kids take care of their outed fifis. Not the a-hole. Forcing your kids to show that kind of affection when they don't want to can cause resentment towards the people forcing them to do so. He's still super little and unfiltered, meaning that they act on themselves instead of other people. He enjoys cuddling with mom more, so he doesn't want to cuddle with dad. And I'm sure the same thing goes for wrestling. You can't force your kid to show affection in a way that doesn't make them comfortable. I hope that made sense. Either way, not the a-hole. One of the worst things you can do as a parent, outside whole other level abuse, is to force a child to hug/kiss anyone. Not the a-hole. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.